Okay, the last in my series of features of graphs, exponential. So an exponential is just a special power graph. The number e is one that's used when we're talking about growth at a particular rate, the fastest rate of growth that we know about, instantaneous growth. And we get a very special number called 2.71 or e. So this is just another power graph. It looks a bit different, but it is simply another power graph. So here it is, the standard equation we've got. It's the green one there. So I'm going to leave that on as my standard graph, and I'm going to do the same thing up here, just play with graphs when I change the numbers. So what's the features? Again, it's like a spaceship taking off into space, or an airplane along the runway, and starts to climb, and then for some reason going straight up into space. And it keeps going until it's getting closer and closer and closer to going straight up. Never goes through this line. It can't start underground. Spaceship doesn't actually touch the line for some reason. Maybe it's a magnetic levitating spaceship. It never touches that line, even though it gets really, really close and our decimals can't handle it anymore. It doesn't touch that line. Right, so this one goes through here at 1, like all power graphs do. Anything to the power of 0 is 1. We can move that, of course, by changing our sliders. So if I want to move it left and right, if I want to change the slope, I can backwards the slope, I can forwards the slope. But if I go into negatives, it stays. That's pretty cool. So I can make the slope steeper and steeper. I can hit the number 1 and it matches perfectly my beginning graph. And then I can make it steeper and steeper and steeper. Okay, it just forces it to get to 1, get down to the number 0 quicker than a standard graph. So let me take that back to 1 again, and let me change this one. So it looks like the graph is getting steeper and steeper, but in fact, all I'm actually doing is moving it sideways. Okay, the illusion that it's changing the steepness here is just because of the sideways motion. So it's exactly the same shape as an ordinary exponential graph, but it is moving sideways. So for this one, I'd have to go way up here somewhere to find out where it crosses the x-axis. Somewhere it's going to, because there it is on the other side. So somewhere in here, it's getting really close. So let's try 200. No. Somewhere in there, it goes through the x-axis. Or, the y-axis, and there it is. It was there. 0 and 200.337. So that's the point where it crosses the y-axis. Just remember which axis I'm talking about. Okay, going back down to the bottom, starts to separate away. Zooming out might help me get there a bit quicker. Okay, so same shape, but it's just been moved across a bit. So I can just take it back to the beginning. I can change the power out in front of the number e, so it's going to change that to a different value. If I go negative, it flips it upside down. If I go bigger, it makes it steeper, changes my crossing point. And I can change the powers, change it that way. But the features are still the same. It is a spaceship taking off into space, very close to this line, but never actually touches it. Well, let's give it a new line to get close to, but not actually touching. So let's move this up and down. There it goes, up and down. So if I want to do that, it's going to get very close to 5 by setting this number to 5. Now it gets very, very close to 5, but never actually touches it. There's always an infinitesimal gap between the graph and the number 5. If I wanted to do it the other way, to come down here and slope into the number 5, I'd have to change my power over here to, which one of these do I have to change? There we go. I have to change my power at the top, the B. So there it is. Now it's going to come down the other way, get close to the number 5, but never actually touch it. So maybe my spaceship's coming in for a land now. Coming in, swooping on down, and then starting to ease and along the runway. Okay, so there's an exponential graph. Some of the features. It's a curve that takes off from a certain line, never touches that line, and the line gets steeper and steeper as it shoots upwards. The exponential graph, a very fancy power graph.